Productivity isn't just about doing more, it's about doing the right things at the right time with the highest impact. I know this because mastering productivity helped me to get a 7-figure job on Wall Street in my 20s, as well as build a $250 million business in my early 40s. Here are my top 9 steps for you to master productivity in your life. Step 1, plan your week in advance. This is the #1 productivity habit I've built that has allowed me to succeed from Wall Street to entrepreneurship. Every Sunday, I take time to plan the highest leverage actions for the coming week. I call it Triple S, my Sunday Success Service. It only takes 15 to 20 minutes and allows me to maximize my time for tasks that are important and reduce or entirely eliminate tasks that are not. This habit for me started when I was at Goldman Sachs. I worked on the trading floor, which was a high pressure environment. But when the markets were closed on the weekends, it would sit empty. I remember going in on Sundays to the vast room with hundreds of trading stations, and more often than not, I would be the only person there. This was the time I planned my week, got a clear head of my positioning, and ensured I was going into Monday with the right plan of attack. When you do this right, it allows you to walk into Monday with clarity and makes execution effortless. Whether you're an entrepreneur or working 9 to 5, get in the habit of planning your week in advance on Sundays. And I promise you, you'll see a dramatic impact on your overall productivity and performance. Step 2, creative execution intersection, or the CEI. Entrepreneurship is about creation. It's an art. Creativity doesn't happen in a rigid schedule. It requires unstructured creative time. But to scale a business, you also need structured execution, systems, processes, and oftentimes meetings. The key is splitting your time between structured execution operations and unstructured creative work. When I first started my business, I found that my weeks were full with operational duties. This left little time for creative thinking. I got through this by making Sundays my secret weapon. During the week, I would simply keep a journal of all the challenges I encountered that were not immediately solvable in the Notes app on my iPhone. And every Sunday, I would sit with them while brainstorming for solutions. More often than not, I would come away with a tangible plan to overcome those challenges. Do this every week and watch your productivity skyrocket. Currently, I batch most of my meetings into 1 day a week, what I consider to be structured execution time, so I can spend the rest of the week in flow or creative time. It's all about mastering that intersection of creation and execution. If you're like me, early on in your journey, unstructured creative work will get pushed to nights and weekends, and that's totally okay. As you grow, you can delegate more of the structured work and spend more time in creative flow. When you're doing your Sunday Success Service planning, I'd highly recommend scheduling both creative and execution work for your week ahead, as this will increase the likelihood of you getting a good balance of both in your schedule. Step 3, bias to action. Productivity is about reducing the time between knowing the action you should take and actually taking that action. Most people waste too much time in the middle, overthinking, hesitating, or getting distracted. Speed matters. This is why you want to live by what I call a bias to action, which simply means acting fast on ideas and plans. When the pandemic happened, it became clear to me that we had no choice but to geographically diversify our operations, and I quickly made the decision to open up an additional manufacturing facility. But that's not the full story. The only reason I knew where to open up so quickly was because this was a decision I had been pondering for 2 years. I knew it was the right move, but I was too afraid to take the action. This led me to scramble when I finally had to take that action because I literally had no other choice. If only I had taken that action sooner, when I knew in my gut it was the right move for the business, I would have been much better suited to weather the early days of the pandemic. Moral of the story is this: got a new social media strategy you want to try? Great, let's start today. Inspired to try a new marketing campaign? Perfect. Let's execute on it tomorrow. The most successful entrepreneurs may not always make the right decisions, but they make all their decisions right. Develop a bias to action as your default mechanism and simply course correct when necessary, rather than stall on an idea that you never end up trying. Step 4, accountability accelerator, or AA. One of my biggest productivity hacks is having accountability, setting up external forces that keep me on track. As humans, it is scientifically proven that we are far more likely to follow through if we're accountable to someone. This is why all the greatest athletes in the world have multiple coaches for each area of the game. If Michael Jordan needed several coaches to be accountable to perform at his best, why would you think you didn't need one? A couple of years ago, I was struggling with what to do next. I knew that in order to grow into the entrepreneur I wanted to be, I was going to need to change. In order to change, it almost always requires you to do something that is uncomfortable. I knew that in order for me to guarantee this shift, I needed to build accountability into my life. And that is when I hired Dr. Julie Gerner as a performance coach. I articulated my vision, and she holds me accountable along the way. If you can't afford a coach, have a friend or family member hold you accountable to your goals. Maybe even post them publicly for everyone to see. Mr. Beast has published videos years in advance telling his future self and the world what he intends to accomplish. Why not follow his lead? I call this hack the Accountability Accelerator because it is one of the most powerful tools in the world when it comes to maximizing your productivity. Give it a shot and watch your execution skyrocket. Step 5, the power of having a long-term vision. What does vision have to do with productivity? Everything. Every action you take should be filtered through the lens of, is this moving me toward my long-term vision? Vision serves as a forcing mechanism, keeping you focused on what truly matters. The bigger and longer term the vision you can hold for yourself, the better. Remember, people consistently overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. When I started Filterbuy, I took this advice to heart and wrote out a 10-year vision. I thought I was being audacious in my goals. I had a vision of building the business into a $70 million a year enterprise in the first 10 years. The reality, I blew past that goal by a factor of 3. This is why I decided to set my sights even higher, and I'm thinking even further into the future. Having a long-term vision becomes a forcing mechanism and allows me to ask the question, is this action getting me closer to my long-term vision? If the answer is yes, then proceed. If no, then there's your answer. The clearer your vision, the easier it becomes to stay on course. Again, I would refer you back to the Sunday Success service in step 1 when you're planning your week to look out for any unnecessary meetings or events in your calendar that you can eliminate that don't align with your vision. If you're unclear as to what your vision is, don't force it. Be patient and don't be afraid to get some experience before committing fully to a path. Once you are clear on your vision, do everything you can to maximize your time working towards that vision and reduce or eliminate everything that isn't. Step 6, effort doesn't always equal results. The amount of time you put into something does not necessarily correlate with the outcome. We hear, work hard and good things will happen, and then the opposite advice, work smart, not hard. The truth is, both are right and neither is right. Your job as a creator is to focus on the highest leverage activities, the things that drive the most impact. Some actions might take little time but unlock massive value. For example, just last week, we had an opportunity come up that gave us the leverage to negotiate a 7-figure savings from a vendor. This wasn't on my schedule and didn't take a lot of time to execute, but when I saw the opportunity, I prioritized it and made it a reality. Recognize these moments and act accordingly. As you advance in your entrepreneurial journey, you'll be able to eliminate high effort, low impact tasks, which leads me to step number 7. Buy back your time, aka become a time wizard. As mentioned in step 6, your job as the creator is to focus on the highest leverage activities, the things that drive the most impact. Many people get stuck doing small, repetitive tasks out of habit, even when they're not the best use of their time. Constantly assess where you can buy back time with money, whether that's hiring, outsourcing, or automating. This may include hiring a bookkeeper for your finances or a personal assistant for scheduling. I gotta be honest, this is easy to say and oftentimes hard to execute. It's also a muscle I waited too long to build. I famously did customer service for the first 3 years of Filterbuy. While there were certainly some benefits to learning the pain points our customers faced, my time would have been better spent hiring sooner. Stay in a role long enough to build the system and then put people in place to execute while you move on to higher level tasks. Remember, what you don't do is just as important as what you do. You want to become what I call a time wizard by doing everything you can to buy back your time. Remember, we can always make money, but time is one thing that we can never get back. Step 8, goal setting and team buy-in. If you're trying to execute something big, you can't do it alone. Goals aren't just dreams, they need a plan and a team behind them. This is why you want to hire A+ performers who buy into the vision you created in step 5. Getting this buy-in from your team, setting tangible goals, and aligning incentives around them is key to actually achieving those goals, as well as your long-term vision. For this reason, it's also extremely important to hire people who are the right culture cultural fit for your organization. Personally, I'd rather hire someone who's a little less experienced but extremely enthusiastic about the goals we have set, rather than hiring someone who has more experience but little buy-in for the long-term vision. Step 9, SAS, Self-Awareness System. Build a system that works for you. Despite what social media gurus tell you, productivity isn't one size fits all. Your system should align with who you are and how you work best. While I've given you my top productivity hacks that have worked for me over the last 2 decades, don't be afraid to build a system that works for you. While I definitely encourage you to test all these productivity tips out, feel free to use what is helpful and discard what isn't. I cannot tell you how many times I have watched a video just like this and thought to myself, I do the exact opposite and it works for me. In business and in life, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. However, experimenting and making a process your own is the key, and I hope that you use some of my tips to help you inform your own productivity journey. Thanks for watching, and if you want more tips like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.